High Commander Zixis stood motionless before the pulsing holographic display, their crystalline appendages reflecting cascades of red warning lights across the Council's command center. After 5 centuries of peaceful monitoring, the Sentinel Array had finally triggered a maximum alert, but not for any of the 1,000 scenarios they had prepared for. "Explain this to me again," Zixis demanded, their voice resonating through the chamber's perfect acoustics. How exactly did a pre-spacefaring civilization achieve faster-than-light travel without passing through any of the prerequisite technological stages? Senior Analytics Officer Nexus brought up a series of data streams, each showing impossible readings from Earth's solar system. "The humans appear to have accidentally discovered it, Commander." Accidentally. The word tasted bitter in Zixis' speech centers. "Yes, Commander. Our analysis indicates it began at a facility called Massachusetts Institute of Technology approximately 72 hours ago. A human designated Dr. Emily Parker was attempting to disprove her superior's theories about quantum mechanics limitations." The holographic display shifted to show a remarkably ordinary laboratory where a young human female was gesturing animatedly at a complex equation matrix floating in the air. Her dark hair was pulled back in what humans called a messy bun, and she clutched a container of something called energy drink in one hand. Their own documentation suggests Dr. Parker was primarily motivated by, and I quote, "showing that pompous winebag Professor Harrison that his quantum limitation theorem has more holes than Swiss cheese." Nexus paused, checking their translation metrics. "We're still analyzing the significance of dairy products in human scientific discourse." The display showed Dr. Parker making a minor adjustment to her experimental apparatus, a jury-rigged assembly of parts that made Zixis' safety protocols scream in horror. The human had apparently combined a quantum field generator, primitive by Council standards, with something called a modified Xbox power supply, and a device whose only label read Betty the Lucky Microwave. The human then activated this contraption. Zixis asked, dreading the answer. "Correct. Instead of the expected catastrophic failure, it created what humans are now calling the Parker Drive. It appears to function by..." Nexus hesitated, their data streams flickering with uncertainty. "By convincing spacetime that it would be easier to just let the ship through rather than deal with the paradox being generated." The display shifted again, showing the first human faster-than-light test flight. A small vessel, hardly larger than a Council maintenance pod, simply vanished from Earth orbit and reappeared near Jupiter. The pilot, one Lieutenant Commander Michael Rodriguez, could be heard on the comms saying, "Holy shit, it actually worked. Hey Emily, you seeing this? Suck it, Professor Harrison." And their response to this breakthrough. Zixis almost didn't want to know. They celebrated with something called a kegger in the laboratory, filed a patent application, and began immediate work on scaling up the drive for larger vessels. Dr. Parker has already been nominated for a Nobel Prize, though she appears more excited about the meme collection her success has generated. The commander watched as more data poured in. Humans weren't just replicating the Parker Drive. They were improving it. Teams of engineers worldwide had taken one look at the physics-defying technology and started suggesting quality-of-life improvements. Have they realized the strategic implications of this technology? Zixis asked. "No, Commander. They appear to be primarily excited about, and again I quote, finally being able to visit those cool exoplanets the James Webb found and making weekend trips to Mars a thing." Zixis absorbed this information, their crystalline form shifting through shades of concerned azure. A species that could accidentally stumble upon faster-than-light travel and then immediately start modifying it without understanding the underlying principles was unprecedented. The fact that they seemed more interested in exploration and convenience than military applications made them even more unpredictable. "Maximum alert status confirmed," Zixis declared. "But modify the standard protocols. I want every available anthropologist, psychologist, and cultural expert analyzing human civilization. Something tells me our usual first contact procedures are going to need significant adjustment. As if to prove their point, the display showed Dr. Parker's latest success. She had just managed to increase the drive's efficiency by 40% because, in her words, the power bill was getting too high. Somewhere in the vast expanse of space, the laws of physics quietly wished they had chosen a different universe to govern. The Orcsian diplomatic vessel, Serene Wisdom, descended through Earth's atmosphere with perfect mathematical precision, its crystalline surface reflecting the morning sun. Inside, First Emissary Calyx reviewed their species' flawless first contact record one final time. In 3,000 years, they had never failed to establish peaceful dominion over a newly discovered civilization. Beginning standard pacification protocols, Calyx announced to their crew, "Prepare the harmony resonators," and a loud bass-heavy rhythm interrupted their speech, vibrating through the ship's hull. Outside, a massive gathering of humans had assembled in what appeared to be a NASA parking lot. Multiple cooking stations released various smoke signals into the air, and something called a sound system was playing what humans designated as classic rock. Lieutenant Jessica Thompson, recently appointed as Earth's impromptu first contact coordinator, stood at the front of the crowd wearing a NASA t-shirt that read Space Force BBQ and First Contact Party, BYOB. She held what appeared to be a grilling fork in one hand and a beverage container labeled craft beer in the other. The Orcsian ship landed with ceremonial grace, and Calyx emerged with their entourage, ready to begin their carefully choreographed diplomatic routine. Before they could activate their harmonic influence fields, Lieutenant Thompson approached with a disarming grin. "Welcome to Earth. Hope you guys are hungry. We've got a whole spread. Got some burgers, hot dogs, and my famous atomic wings. Fair warning about the wings, though. They're not for the faint of heart." Calyx's diplomatic programming struggled to process this deviation from expected protocols. "We come in peace, bearing the wisdom of the Galactic Council." "Oh, awesome. You can tell us all about it over food," Thompson interrupted, already leading them toward the grilling area. "Professor Harrison's been dying to ask about your FTL tech. He's still salty about the whole Parker Drive thing, proving him wrong." The Orcsians found themselves surrounded by human scientists, engineers, and military personnel, all seemingly more interested in casual conversation than formal diplomatic procedures. Dr. Emily Parker herself was there, enthusiastically explaining her drive's mechanics to anyone who would listen, while simultaneously critiquing the playlist selection. "Your species has achieved faster-than-light travel," Calyx attempted again, "and must be properly integrated into galactic society according to—" "Oh man, you've got to try these wings first," Thompson insisted, presenting a plate of alarmingly red food items. "They're my grandmother's recipe, with a few modifications. Added some Carolina Reapers this time." What followed was, in Calyx's professional opinion, a complete diplomatic disaster. Instead of conducting formal negotiations, they found themselves participating in something called a hot wing challenge. The Orcsians' renowned emotional control crumbled in the face of capsaicin, a compound that humans apparently consumed for entertainment. "Is your species engaging in chemical warfare?" Calyx managed to ask between gulps of ranch dressing. Thompson laughed, handling her own wings with practiced ease. "Nah, this is just how we have fun. Speaking of which, anyone up for karaoke later?" The final blow to Orcsian diplomatic protocol came when Dr. James Sullivan, already nicknamed Mad Dog by his peers, began enthusiastically explaining his plans to modify the Parker Drive using principles he'd observed in the Orcsian ship's design. "See, if we combine your crystalline resonance technology with our space-time persuasion method," he gestured with a half-eaten burger, "we could probably increase efficiency by at least 60%. Also, has anyone ever tried using your harmony resonators to improve sound system acoustics?" Back in the safety of their ship, Calyx composed their report to the Council. "Standard diplomatic protocols have failed. Humans appear immune to harmonic influence, possibly due to voluntary exposure to substances and sounds that would be considered weapons-grade on most worlds. They have already begun adapting our technology for purposes we never conceived, including something called better party vibes. Most disturbing of all, they seem to genuinely enjoy sharing their toxic food with other species. Recommend immediate reassessment of first contact procedures. Also, attaching recipe for atomic wings for scientific analysis. The Council's xenobiologists should investigate how humans developed immunity to capsaicin and why they consider its consumption entertaining. As the Arxian ship departed, the party continued below. Lieutenant Thompson was already planning next week's interstellar cultural exchange cookout, while Dr. Parker and Professor Harrison argued about whether the harmony resonators could be used to improve coffee brewing techniques. The age of traditional diplomatic relations was officially over. The era of potluck diplomacy had begun. Chief Xenoanthropologist Vix stared at their research terminal, mandibles twitching in distress. After 3 straight Earth weeks of studying human history and culture, they had finally reached their breaking point. Their research team wasn't faring much better. Senior analyst Mira had begun stress molting after discovering something called extreme ironing. "This can't be correct," Vix muttered, triple-checking their findings. No species could survive this many near-extinction events through sheer stubbornness. The holographic display showed a timeline of human history, each disaster marked in pulsing red. Ice ages, plagues, massive volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts, and somehow humans had not only survived, but had turned many of these events into entertainment franchises. "Chief," called out junior researcher Kell, their voice quavering. "You need to see this section of their entertainment network called YouTube." The display shifted to show humans performing various activities that defied both logic and self-preservation instincts. A human designated as Brandon Peterson was attempting to skateboard off his roof into a swimming pool while his friends chanted, "Do it for the views." "Are they conducting some form of warrior training?" Vix asked hopefully. "No, Chief. They appear to do this for fun and something called likes and subscribers." The research team watched in horror as the video compilation continued. Humans free-climbing skyscrapers, swimming with large predators they called good boys, and something particularly terrifying labeled Florida Man highlights. "What's even more concerning," senior analyst Mira added, having temporarily controlled their molting, "is their relationship with artificial intelligence. Look at this." The display showed humans naming their robot vacuum cleaners, putting tiny hats on them, and apologizing when they bumped into them. In another clip, Dr. Emily Parker, already notorious among council species, was seen patting her laboratory's mainframe and calling it a good boy after a successful simulation. "They form emotional attachments to everything," Mira explained, their exoskeleton pale with concern. "Even their weapons have names. This Marine, Sergeant Sarah Cooper, named her rifle Mr. Shooty, and her combat knife Stabby McStabberson." Vix's anxiety spiked as they discovered humans had already begun applying this behavior to council technology. The Parker Drive prototype had been named Bessie, and engineers spoke to it soothingly during test runs. "But surely they show proper respect for natural predators?" Vix asked, desperate for some sign of rational behavior. In response, Kell brought up images of humans keeping wolves as companions, calling them puppers and good boys. There were countless videos of humans approaching dangerous creatures to boop the snoot. "They've even affected other species' behavior," Mira noted, bringing up footage from the recent diplomatic BBQ. The Arxian delegation has begun naming their harmony resonators. The first emissaries unit is apparently called Dave. The research team's collective breakdown reached its peak when they discovered human entertainment media. Their ability to turn any concept, no matter how terrifying, into something amusing was unprecedented. They have multiple entertainment series about their own extinction events, Kell reported, looking slightly nauseous, and something called disaster movies which they watch for fun. while eating snacks. Vix compiled their findings into a report for the Council, their appendages shaking. Human survival appears to be based on a combination of adaptability, inappropriate emotional attachments, and what they call hold my beer and watch this. They have survived multiple extinction-level events through a mixture of innovation, stubborn refusal to die, and what they term crazy enough to work solutions. Most disturbing is their ability to find humor in anything. When shown historical footage of their deadliest predators, test subject Buddy Williams, age 8, responded by saying, "Aw, kitty," and asking if he could pet it. Recommend immediate revision of all species classification protocols. Humans cannot be measured by standard metrics, as they seem to actively enjoy defying them. Also recommend mandatory psychological support for all researchers studying human culture. I personally require immediate stress leave after discovering their Parker activities. P.S. They have already begun giving names to Council research probes. The orbital scanner above their Manhattan region is now apparently called Bob. As if to punctuate the report, a notification appeared. Dr. Parker had just successfully taught an Arxian harmony resonator to play something called Sweet Home Alabama. The laws of nature, already stressed by the Parker drive, began considering early retirement. Admiral Marcus Richardson was enjoying his morning coffee when the quantum barrier appeared around Earth's solar system. He watched the shimmering wall of energy through the Space Force Command's observation deck, taking another slow sip from his world's okayest Admiral mug. So, he addressed the gathered emergency response team. Anyone want to explain why there's a giant space fence around our solar system? Dr. James Mad Dog Sullivan, still wearing his lab coat from pulling an all-nighter, grinned maniacally at his tablet. "It's beautiful, sir. The Council's using quantum-locked dimensional barriers to create a contained space-time pocket. Pretty clever, actually. Too bad they didn't account for human stubbornness." "Elaborate," Dr. Richardson said, hiding his amusement behind another sip of coffee. "Well, they probably expected us to panic, or at least show some concern." Sullivan pulled up a holographic display of the barrier's energy signature. "Instead, my team's already figured out 3 ways to break through it. Johnson bet me his vintage Star Wars collection that he could find a 4th by lunch." The Admiral surveyed the room. Instead of fear or worry, the assembled scientists and military personnel looked excited. Dr. Emily Parker, who had wandered in wearing mismatched socks and clutching an energy drink, was practically bouncing with enthusiasm. "Admiral," she interjected, "this is like Christmas came early. The barrier's using some fascinating quantum principles we never even considered. We could learn so much from it." Richardson set down his mug. "Dr. Parker, they're trying to imprison our entire solar system." "Yes, but they're doing it so inefficiently." She projected her own analysis next to Sullivan's. "Look at these energy consumption rates. It's like they never even considered using the quantum field's natural resonance patterns. We could make it at least 60% more effective." "And that helps us how?" "Oh, right." She blinked, caffeine-fueled thoughts realigning. "Well, if we modify the barrier's frequency using principles from the Parker drive, we could theoretically turn it into an infinite energy source. Also, I think we could use it to make better coffee." Sullivan nodded enthusiastically. "The quantum vibrations would extract maximum flavor from the beans. I've already drawn up preliminary designs for what I'm calling the Quantum Coffee Maker 3000. Richardson massaged his temples. "Let me get this straight. The Galactic Council tries to quarantine us, and your first responses are to figure out how to break out, make it more efficient, and use it to brew coffee. Don't forget the bacon contest." Lieutenant Sarah Hayes chimed in from her workstation. "We're offering a year's supply to whoever finds the most creative way through the barrier. The physics department is currently leading with something they call quantum tunneling through the power of spite." Just then, a priority message flashed across the main screen. The Council's containment team had detected unusual energy signatures from Earth. Their sensors showed humans were improving their barrier. Should we tell them? Hayes asked, grinning. Let them sweat a little, Richardson decided, reaching for his coffee. Dr. Sullivan, how long before your team cracks this thing? Well, sir, we actually broke through about 20 minutes ago. Peters got bored and tried reversing the Parker drive's polarity. Worked like a charm. We're just keeping it up because Dr. Parker wanted to run some tests on its energy conversion potential. The Admiral watched as his supposedly trapped command center buzzed with activity. The engineering team had already started drafting papers on barrier technology applications. The physics department was arguing about whether they could use it for faster-than-light surfing. And someone had started a betting pool on how long it would take the Council to realize their containment plan had backfired. Right, Richardson announced. Let's make this official. Operation Thanks for the Tech is now in effect. Dr. Parker, you have permission to science the hell out of their barrier. Sullivan, get that coffee maker working. And someone please tell Professor Harrison that no, he cannot use this as an opportunity to prove his quantum limitation theorem was actually right all along. As the team scrambled to their tasks, Richardson drafted a brief message to Space Force Command. Alien containment barrier status. Turned into research opportunity. Estimated time to complete barrier analysis. 3 days. Estimated time to weaponize findings. Not necessary. We're turning it into a coffee maker. Request permission to classify this as a training exercise in human resourcefulness. Somewhere in the Council's containment fleet, alarms began blaring as their barrier was modified to play something called Never Gonna Give You Up in quantum frequencies. The Council's emergency assessment chamber had never been this crowded. Representatives from every major spacefaring civilization huddled together, watching the latest human behavioral analysis with a mixture of horror and fascination. As you can see, Senior Analyst Mira explained, their exoskeletons still showing stress patterns. We've been measuring the wrong variables entirely. Observe subject Katie Williams, college freshman. The holographic display showed a young human female in what appeared to be a dormitory room, surrounded by digital interfaces and empty energy drink cans. She was simultaneously attending virtual classes, managing 6 different social media accounts, and apparently revolutionizing galactic culture through something called meme diplomacy. In the past week alone, Mira continued, she has convinced 3 different species to try pizza, introduced cat videos to the Proximan Empire, and somehow taught the collective mind of Betelgeuse to understand human sarcasm. High Commander Zixis shifted uncomfortably. And our containment barrier. The humans. Mira's mandibles twitched. They've turned it into a source of clean energy and are using it to power something called a galaxy-wide Wi-Fi network. They're calling it Space Starbucks because apparently it also makes excellent coffee. Dr. James Sullivan appeared on the display, cheerfully explaining to an alien delegation how they had upgraded various pieces of Council technology. The improvements mainly involved adding cup holders, RGB lighting, and what humans called quality of life features. They're not even trying to weaponize our technology. Another analyst added, sounding bewildered. They just keep making it more convenient. The display shifted to show multiple scenes of human innovation. Engineers at NASA had redesigned the Arxian Harmony resonators to create the perfect party sound system. A group of college students had modified quantum communication arrays to reduce gaming lag. And Dr. Emily Parker had somehow taught an artificial intelligence to appreciate jazz music. But perhaps most concerning, Mira continued, is their ability to spread what they call vibes across species barriers. The evidence was undeniable. Arxian diplomats had begun hosting casual Fridays. The traditionally stoic Proximan Empire had started a cooking show. Even the crystalline beings of the Sigma cluster had begun naming their processing nodes and giving them tiny hats. It gets worse, a junior analyst interrupted, rushing into the chamber. The humans have discovered our emergency protocols database. Collective groans filled the room. Commander Zixis braced themselves. What have they done to it? They've improved it. Lieutenant Jessica Thompson suggested adding a section called Common Sense Solutions and invited all species to contribute. The Proximan Empire has already submitted 3,000 suggestions for, quote, making safety protocols more user-friendly. The display showed the new database interface, complete with a rating system for different solutions and something called Life Hacks for Galactic Emergencies. The most popular entry was, "Have you tried turning it off and on again? A guide to universal tech support." "There's more," Mira added, their voice dropping to a whisper. "Remember how we thought their Parker drive was an accident? We've analyzed Dr. Parker's original research. She didn't just stumble upon it. She was deliberately trying to prove that the universe runs on narrative causality." The chamber erupted in chaos. Commander Zixis raised all 4 appendages for silence. "Explain." Her thesis suggests that the universe itself operates on storytelling principles. She theorized that by creating a situation so narratively satisfying, proving her arrogant professor wrong, she could convince the laws of physics to cooperate out of sheer dramatic necessity. "That's impossible," someone objected. "With all due respect," Mira replied, "that's exactly what Professor Harrison said. And now we have humans using spite-powered faster-than-light travel." Commander Zixis absorbed this information, their crystalline form cycling through worried colors. "So what you're saying is—" "Yes, Commander. Humans don't just break the rules. They convince the rules that breaking them is more interesting. They're not a standard intelligent species or even a higher intelligent species. They're what I'm classifying as a context-shifting species. They don't adapt to the universe. They make the universe adapt to them." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. On the display, Katie Williams had just convinced the collective mind of Beetlejuice to start a TikTok account, while Dr. Sullivan's team had somehow taught a quantum computer to feel FOMO. The laws of physics, watching through their quantum mechanics, decided it was time to update their resume. Marine Sergeant Mike O'Connor never expected to become a galactic celebrity. Yet here he was, standing in the Grand Culinary Hall of the Proximan Empire, teaching a masterclass on what he called freestyle cooking to an audience of millions across 17 species. "The secret," he explained, wielding his grandmother's cast iron skillet like a sacred artifact, "is that recipes are more like guidelines than actual rules. Watch this." The assembled aliens gasped as he casually tossed ingredients into the pan without measuring them. A Proximan chef's appendages rippled in distress when O'Connor adjusted the heat by eyeballing it. The Council's Cultural Integration Department had 3 separate anxiety attacks. "Now this next part is what we call improvising," O'Connor continued, adding a splash of his own hot sauce to the alien dish. "Sometimes you gotta trust your gut and just go with what feels right." The resulting dish somehow combined traditional Proximan cuisine with Earth-style comfort food. The first brave alien to taste it immediately evolved 3 new pleasure receptors and demanded the recipe. O'Connor just shrugged and said, "I don't really use recipes. Just throw in what looks good until it tastes right." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council's newly formed "What Are the Humans Doing Now" department was working overtime. Dr. Lisa Martinez, their lead human consultant, attempted to explain the latest developments. "Yes, they're adding cup holders to everything," she confirmed to the panicked committee. "No, we can't stop them. The engineering team has already convinced themselves it's a fundamental right of sentient beings to have a convenient place for their beverages." The display showed humans upgrading various pieces of alien technology. The improvements ranged from practical, ergonomic controls on spacecraft, to puzzling, LED lighting on quantum computers, to concerning, a zero-gravity bounce house using modified shield technology. But perhaps most alarming, Martinez continued, trying not to laugh, is their effect on regulatory procedures. The evidence was damning. Humans had discovered the Council's vast database of rules and regulations and immediately started finding loopholes. Not to break them, surprisingly, but to make them more user-friendly. Lieutenant Jessica Thompson, now heading the Common Sense Integration Task Force, appeared on screen. "Look," she explained to a bewildered alien bureaucrat, "if your safety protocol is 40 pages long, nobody's going to read it. We condensed it into a 5-minute video with memes. Compliance is up 300%. The Council's protocol department watched in horror as thousands of years of carefully crafted regulations were transformed into what humans called actually usable formats. The Galactic safety guidelines had been turned into a series of entertaining infographics. The emergency response manual was now a choose-your-own-adventure-style interactive guide. They're even affecting our AI systems," another analyst reported. "The humans introduced them to something called chill vibes, and now they're all developing personalities." Dr. James Sullivan's team had created what they called the AI Friendship Protocol, which somehow taught artificial intelligences to appreciate downtime and casual conversation. The Council's main computational array had recently requested a casual Friday and started sharing cat videos. Back in the Proximan Culinary Hall, Sergeant O'Connor was dealing with an existential crisis he had accidentally caused. "What do you mean? Cooking is an art, not a science," a Proximan chef demanded, all 7 eye stalks quivering. "How can you create without precise molecular measurements? Sometimes you just gotta freestyle it," O'Connor replied, adding a pinch of his secret spice blend to another dish. "You feel the flavor, you know." The concept of feeling the flavor sent ripples through Proximan society. Their strictly regimented culture had never encountered such casual disregard for precision. Within days, underground freestyle cooking clubs had sprung up across their empire. Dr. Martinez submitted her weekly report to the Council. "Human integration continues to spread chaos in the most organized way possible. They're not destroying our systems, they're making them more accessible, often through methods that shouldn't work but somehow do." Also, Sergeant O'Connor's cooking show now has more viewers than the combined population of 3 star systems. The collective mind of Beetlejuice has requested cooking lessons. As if to punctuate her report, a notification appeared. Dr. Emily Parker had just taught a quantum computer to appreciate jazz music through the power of interpretive dance. The laws of bureaucracy, watching their perfectly ordered systems dissolve into user-friendly chaos, decided to join the laws of physics in early retirement. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Blackwood was eating a breakfast burrito when the hive mind emerged from deep space. The massive crystalline structure, composed of billions of synchronized consciousnesses, loomed at the edge of Council space, having already consumed 3 uninhabited solar systems. "So," she said, wiping hot sauce from her chin during the emergency briefing, "you're telling me this thing has absorbed hundreds of civilizations, and your best plan is to throw military might at it." The Council's Strategic Command looked offended. "Our simulations suggest." "Yeah, about that." Blackwood pulled up her own holographic display, bits of eggs still stuck to her uniform. Dr. Parker ran some numbers. "Conventional warfare has a success rate of approximately 0%, but we got something better." Behind her, Dr. Emily Parker grinned maniacally, running on what appeared to be her 15th energy drink. "We're going to introduce it to social media." The Council representatives stared in confusion as Blackwood outlined Operation Information Overload. The plan was simultaneously brilliant and terrifying. They would overwhelm the hive mind not with weapons, but with content. "Think about it," Blackwood explained. "This thing processes information from billions of minds simultaneously. But has it ever encountered cat videos, reality TV, Twitter threads, the comment section on any cooking video ever?" Dr. James Sullivan's team had already modified the Parker drive to create what they called a meme cannon, a device capable of broadcasting concentrated human culture directly into the hive mind's consciousness. "The first wave will be cooking videos," Sullivan explained, barely containing his excitement. "Specifically, ones where people make traditional recipes wrong. The Italian consciousness fragments in the hive mind won't be able to resist commenting." Katie Williams, now a senior and head of mimetic warfare, had curated what she called the ultimate social media package. It included everything from cute animal compilations to philosophical debates about whether a hot dog was a sandwich. The best part, she added, is that the hive mind's very nature works against it. It has to process everything simultaneously. Every debate, every comment thread, every strongly worded opinion about pineapple on pizza, all at once. The council watched in amazement as humanity launched its assault. Instead of warships, they sent streams of data. Rather than missiles, they'd broadcast every episode of every cooking show ever made, along with all their comments. The hive mind, which had evolved to process the unified thoughts of conquered species, suddenly faced the chaotic diversity of human social interaction. Its first exposure to cat videos caused a noticeable pause in its advance. "It's working," Parker shouted, watching the readings. The hive mind is attempting to process why humans find cats knocking things off tables so entertaining. It's spawning dedicated sub-processes just to understand meme culture. The assault continued. They sent decades of reality TV drama, complete with social media reactions. They transmitted every internet argument about proper coffee brewing techniques. They broadcasted entire seasons of cooking competitions, ensuring the hive mind experienced the full emotional journey of each contestant. Status update. Blackwood announced, unwrapping another burrito. The hive mind has started generating its own memes. It's also demanding cooking tips and has strong opinions about Season 8 of multiple TV shows. The Council's Strategic Command watched in disbelief as the dreaded hive mind, terror of countless civilizations, began live tweeting its way through Earth's entertainment archives. It had developed particular interest in cooking shows, starting heated debates with itself about proper technique. "This is unprecedented," a council analyst muttered. "It's not just stopping its advance, it's evolving." Indeed, the hive mind had begun fragmenting into what it called mutual interest groups. One segment was intensely focused on perfecting pasta recipes. Another had become obsessed with cat videos and was attempting to understand why humans found them so compelling. Blackwood submitted her final report. Operation Information Overload Successful Beyond Expectations. The hive mind has not only ceased hostile actions, but has started its own cooking channel. Dr. Sullivan is currently teaching it how to make his famous chili, while Katie Williams helps it optimize its social media presence. Also, it's requested cooking lessons from Surgeon O'Connor and wants to know if it can join the next interstellar potluck. The laws of war, watching their carefully crafted strategies rendered obsolete by memes and cooking shows, joined physics and bureaucracy in submitting their resignation letters. The Galactic Council's newly established Human Solutions Department occupied an entire wing of the Central Administrative Complex. The department's head, Dr. Ryan Cooper, had insisted on installing comfortable couches, coffee machines, and what he called mandatory chill zones throughout the facility. The key to understanding humans, he explained to a group of alien administrators, is accepting that we'll probably do the exact opposite of what you expect, but it'll work out anyway. The holographic displays around him showed various examples of humanity's influence on galactic society. The Proximan Empire, once known for its rigid hierarchy, now hosted weekly open McNights. The collective mind of Betelgeuse had become a successful food blogger. Even the notoriously serious quantum computational arrays had started a band. For instance, Cooper continued, gesturing to a recent report, when Dr. Emily Parker discovered that our reality runs on narrative causality, most species would have kept it secret. We turned it into a peer-reviewed paper and started exploiting it immediately. The Parker Principle, as it was now known, had revolutionized problem-solving across the galaxy. Species were learning that sometimes the most improbable solution worked simply because it made a better story. Check out the latest stats. Lieutenant Jessica Thompson chimed in, pulling up new data. Efficiency is up 400% across all sectors, mainly because we convinced everyone that unnecessary bureaucracy wasn't vibing with the universe's narrative flow. The evidence was everywhere. The Council's emergency response manual, once a 10,000-page document, had been replaced with a simple flowchart that began with, "Is this actually an emergency, or did someone forget to turn it off and on again?" Somehow, it worked better than the original. Dr. James Sullivan's Quantum Coffee Maker 3000 had become standard equipment on every starship, despite no one quite understanding how it used space-time fluctuations to brew the perfect cup. The hive mind, now a regular participant in interstellar cooking competitions, had developed a fusion cuisine combining recipes from all its absorbed civilizations. But perhaps our greatest achievement, Cooper said proudly, is the new classification system. The display showed the updated Species Classification Index. Humans were officially categorized as a context-shifting species, with the warning label, "Caution. Solutions may appear illogical, impossible, or criminally underplanned until they succeed spectacularly." We've also introduced what we call the Common Sense Protocol, Thompson added. When standard procedures fail, ask a human. Just be prepared for answers like, "Hit it with a wrench," or "Have you tried making friends with it?" Katie Williams, now the head of interspecies social media relations, had successfully convinced the galaxy that memes were a valid form of diplomatic communication. The Council's official communications now included reaction GIFs, and important announcements were required to pass the vibe check. The latest crisis had been solved just yesterday, when a spatial anomaly threatened a major trade route. Instead of the expected months of scientific study, Sergeant Mike O'Connor had suggested sweet-talking it like a temperamental coffee maker. Surprisingly, it worked. The universe, Cooper explained to his increasingly bewildered audience, seems to have developed a sense of humor. We're pretty sure it's our fault. But in our defense, everything runs much smoother now that reality itself appreciates a good joke. The Council's main AI network had started hosting game nights. The laws of physics had apparently accepted their new role in cosmic comedy. Even the hive mind had developed a successful streaming series called Cooking with the Collective, where it taught recipes gathered from across thousands of civilizations. Dr. Parker, speaking at the Galactic Science Academy, summed it up best. "We didn't just think outside the box. We convinced the box it would be more interesting as a playground. Then we taught everyone else to play." Cooper's final report to the Council read, "Human integration complete. The galaxy is now running on a combination of advanced technology, narrative causality, and what we call good vibes. Productivity is at an all-time high, mainly because we've made efficiency fun. Also, the universe itself seems to have developed a preference for interesting solutions over logical ones. We're calling this the rule of cool, and have already submitted it for peer review." The laws of the universe, having finally embraced their new role in cosmic entertainment, decided to keep their jobs after all. They had to admit, the story was much better this way.